Today is November 22nd, 2011. The ICANN statement is that I can prepare effectively for tomorrow's assessment over Western Europe. First thing that we did in class was a practice test, but I'll get to that later. You're going to have to hear me rant for a couple of minutes. I guess you could fast forward it and just ignore me ranting and I would never know the difference, but I'm asking that you listen to me rant for just a few minutes over what we talked about in class before we actually go over some of the test items for tomorrow. The question is, does Mr. Dye do enough for the kids who are failing the class? Let's be realistic here, and the concern of the school is a pass-fail rate. I'm not telling anybody anything that they don't already know, but let's just start to be pretty blunt here. And so the students that are failing, have I done enough for those students? Have I done everything that I can do for those students? The answer is quite honestly, no, I haven't. I have not done everything that I can do. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I work on school stuff until I get home. Then I'm a dad, and I take that job just as seriously as I take this job sitting behind this desk at Brownsburg High School. Could I, instead of getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, get up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Absolutely. But in all honesty, I don't know that I'm willing to do that. Instead of going to bed at 11 o'clock at night, could I go to bed at midnight? Absolutely. But I don't know that I'm willing to do that. I think that life is a balance, and I don't think that the appropriate question is, have I done enough? But I think the appropriate question is, have I done what's reasonable? Have I been fair to the students of the Geography and History of the World course? Have I given them every opportunity to pass this class? And I think I have, and I think this is why. Every single day, I do a YouTube video like this one, and it reviews what we do in class, and sometimes you have to hear me rant like this. I retested Latin America. The scores were horrible, and they were horrible across the board. So maybe the material was too difficult. Okay, so we retested. But how did we retest? We retested by giving you an extra day of studying and then giving you the test, the exact same test that you had prior. Exactly the same, just scrambled questions. No new material. No new questions. And instead of just giving you 1 day to study like I had planned, I gave you 2. And I gave you 2 days to study because you, as students, collectively said, well, I want to go out trick-or-treating and Halloween parties and things like this, and I didn't want to have a test after Halloween. I was respectful of your time because you've earned that. You've done overall a really, really good job. And quite frankly, I want kids to be kids. And I want you to have fun. And I want you to experience all those things that you're not going to experience 10 years, 15 years from now. But I retested that Latin America test. Some people did 22% better. Some people actually did a little bit worse, but I gave you that opportunity to show that you knew it, that you understood that material the second time around. All the questions from the last test were on YouTube. Here's the thing, guys. 3 tests have been put into the gradebook so far. One of them was the Latin America test we didn't do so well on. The second one, every single question and every single answer, you had the questions and answers to. The third test, over Northern Europe, every single question and every single answer you had access to on the YouTube channel. And so 2 out of the 3 tests, you had every question and every answer. Weekly emails of the agenda go out to parents, and I also post these on YouTube on Fridays, or tomorrow. I'll do it since it's the last day of the week. Weekly updates of grades. Every single week I update grades, and I do it much more than that, I assure you. I allow for late assignments without any significant penalties. I post assignments that are due 3 days prior to the due date. I post it on the board. I put arrows toward it. I remind you every day in class. I tell you to read the board. The instructions are always on the board. Number 8, they're always on the board, and the expectation is that you read the board every day. Practice tests. The practice tests I give you have questions directly from the test on them. Directly from the test. I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not trying to find out what you don't know. I want to know what you do know. So I give you those practice tests with those questions directly off the test. Today, I gave you 10 questions directly off the test that you'll see tomorrow. Individual student conferences, I couldn't even tell you how many of these I've had. I have met with every single student at least 3 times in the middle of the school day. I haven't asked you to come in before school. I haven't asked you to come in after school, but during class time, because I think it's that important that we talk. What kind of questions do you have? I've met with every single student. I posted on the board every single student's assignment and what it is that they were still missing. Some of them said, hey, I'm going to get this done, and they got it done, and thank you for doing that. Some of you said, I'm going to get this done, and then you never got it done. Quite honestly, the people that are watching this and taking the time to do this probably aren't the ones that said one thing and then did something else. The people that are watching YouTube, like you, are doing what I'm asking you to do. Parent emails and or phone calls. If students are struggling, I'm sending out emails. This is what's going on in class. I'm concerned. We have a month left. We have 6 weeks left. Before it gets too far into the grading period, I want to make sure that everybody does a good job. So I ask students this. Ultimately, it comes down to here. If a student's going to fail the class for the semester, I care about that. What intervention should I realistically try before submitting that failing grade? This is on your transcript. This is forever. And I'm not saying that there's nothing more important than high school, but I am saying that the grade that you get is going to stay with you for this class. And so I take it seriously. I don't want you to think that I get any thrill whatsoever out of submitting a failing grade, because I don't. That's the last thing that I want. So what do? Do I just give everybody a D minus? Do I bump everybody up? That seems to be kind of a common student suggestion. Well, if they've got a 56%, go ahead and bump them up to a D minus. Well, what about the student who has an 88%? Do I bump them up to a 90? Where does it stop? And what does it do to the grade for that student who really tried hard and just didn't get that material? Because there are a lot of them out there. They're trying. They're really busting their butt to get this done, and they just don't understand the material, or they're struggling with how it's delivered, or whatever the case may be. I have a problem with bumping grades, but I'm listening to what you're saying, and we will talk more about this after break. This has already gone way too long. I'm sorry. 6 minutes, 30 seconds into it. I'm going to go over some of these questions. All this stuff, you guys should know all this. Let's just go through. I'm not going to go through every question, but I'm going to go through a number of them. 50 million, that's the number of that's the number of Europeans who died during World War II. 6 million is the number of Jews that were killed during the Holocaust, the answer to this question. Charlemagne inherited the kingdom after his brother died. The religious belief of the people in the northern part would be pagan. D. Who lost most during the Crusades? The people who lost most during the Crusades were the Jewish people. Nobody won, but the Jews lost. Who won the first crusade? Those would be the Christians. But to answer this question, who lost the most? The Jewish population. Who's responsible for Charlemagne's empire splitting up? This would be his sons. He had 3 sons. They divided the empire. What group was an economic confederation, kind of like NAFTA, but much earlier? This would be the Hanseatic League. The 2 groups fighting during the Crusades were the Christians and Muslims. D. What is not true about Germany? Almost all of Germany's electric energy comes from nuclear power plants is not true. A third of their energy comes from nuclear power plants, but that number is getting less. Germany is very concerned about environmental issues, and to that end, there are some concerns about nuclear energy. What happens if, worst case scenarios, another Chernobyl, for example, happens? And so those resources, electric energy, is coming from other places besides just nuclear now. Which of the following is not part of the Nuremberg laws? Jews did not have to pay a Jewish tax to Germany, so the answer is B. What ended World War I and blamed Germany for pretty much everything is the Treaty of Versailles. How did Charlemagne prefer to gain additional land? He preferred through peaceful means. B. But if he had to, he would also crush people. Who won the Crusades? We've been through this. Nobody won the Crusades. What country allowed the SS St. Louis to dock there? That would be France. The most significant criticism of the Catholic Church during the Reformation would be selling indulgences, or selling the opportunity of people buying their way or their ancestors' way into heaven. What countries of Western Europe has the greatest population? That's Germany. Who started the Crusades? Pope Urban II. What were the ghettos? The ghettos were forced segregation of Jews. Who crowned Charlemagne emperor? Pope Leo III. Kristallnacht. Why was Kristallnacht significant? This is when prejudice turned into physical violence toward the Jews. D. What is not an issue or challenge for Germany? Communism is still popular in parts of Germany. This is not true. Who started the Protestant Reformation? Protestant Reformation was started by Martin Luther. The Crusades, what were they fighting over? Making it safe for Christians to travel to Jerusalem. Which group was not targeted by Germans and forced to wear patches in concentration camps? These would be Catholics. How many Europeans were killed during World War II? 50 million. I said I'm not going to go over every question, so there it is. The last 2 are up to you. Let's roll up our sleeves. Take the last 2 weeks to really do well, to prove to ourselves, to prove to our parents, to prove to even Mr. Dye that we're doing well, that we can do this. If you missed today, You missed a lot.